That's a nice setup you got there.
Isn't this nice?
Where are you right now? LA?
Yeah, I'm at the DoubleTree in Anaheim.
Oh,
This is Disneyland country, Jordan.
oh yeah.
Yeah, a lot of Disneyland. I'm at Expo West, and it's a nice mix of people here in Anaheim. It's either like crunchy granola type people in their Patagonia vests and carrying their water bottles and backpacks. And then there's the Disney crowd. So there's this families, middle America. I would say juxtaposition of people who care nothing about their health and then people who are completely obsessed with their health.
I'm sure you're gonna stay through the weekend and hit up Disneyland.
Yeah, no, I was actually thinking of flying back tonight. I mean, nothing against Expo West, but I mean, there's a few it's a natural food show for those who don't know. There's always kind of new alcohol and non-alc trends that you can spot here. So I wanted to walk the floor, which I did. I walked the floor, Jordan, before it even opened. I snuck in so that I could see all the booths without people talking to me.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. But, one of the first booths I went into was the one that Sierra Nevada just invested in this morning.
Oh, Riot?
Riot, yeah.
Did you get to try it?
I didn't. They didn't have any out yet. They were just unpacking, but it looked good. I wanted one.
Oh, you're an energy drink connoisseur now.
I know. I'm going to go back there after lunch and hopefully I'll grab one. But a lot of people, there's like 60,000 people here. This is a big event.
Damn.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Hold on. Let me blow my nose before we bring in the big man, the man of the hour, the most.
Jordan.
Hold on.
I mean, this is the perfect contrast. I got Jordan sitting there looking like a champ, and I got my old friend blowing his fucking nose.
Wait, did y'all hear that?
Grief, bro. What a way. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
What's up, Greg?
Man, I'm telling you what, if I was any better, well, I don't know what would happen if I was better, but we've got the day where the sun is shining. It is March the 9th. I know that because this is the it's an anniversary of Mrs. Purser's 40th birthday. That's all I'm going to say about that. But
right.
Oh, congratulations.
Anyway, yeah, so it's exciting. Lots of things going on.
You're on the hook.
On the hook. Yeah.
You better make it good for dinner tonight.
That's right. There better be flowers and jewelry. That's what I was told years ago, and I try to stick to it.
Jordan, this is two old men telling you how to keep a happy wife. Don't ask me how to keep a happy wife. Obviously, I'm not good at it. But we have Craig Purser here, of course, the CEO of the National Beer Wholesalers Association in Washington. I am in Anaheim at the Natural Foods Conference, Expo West, and Jordan is back manning the mothership in San Antonio, Texas. Gentlemen, thank you for being on BeerNet Radio, the podcast where all your dreams come true.
Fantastic.
So, Craig, thanks for being on. And listen, I know we've got the spring legislative conference coming up, and there's some policy issues that we want to talk about. So, tell me what's shaking in Washington and what we should be thinking about.
Well, it's interesting because I don't remember which beer executive said it, but it's never been more true. When it comes to advocacy, participation is important. And as was said a number of years ago, do lunch or be lunch. And when it comes to being in front of our elected representatives, participation is really, really important. And so we're excited. We're excited about a bunch of things related to this legislative conference. First of all, we've got a little bit of a schedule change in as much as Congress is not going to be in session on Monday, April the 24th. So that's going to be the day that we start the conference. And then they're scheduled to be in the afternoon of the 25th. And so that's when our visits are going to start. But we've got a couple of things right off the bat on the afternoon of the 24th that people will want to be in town. You want to try to be in town for 3 o'clock in the afternoon start time on Monday, the 24th. We've got our Be Your Best Advocate kind of preview with our advocacy team. We'll be doing a deep dive on these issues. And then we've got a distributor members only hour-long session about contracts and beverage expansion. You know, you can't pick up Beer Business Daily without talking about all of the interest in beverages beyond beer. And when we get put forward with a bunch of new players that want to be on our members' trucks, helping them navigate and negotiate those terms is really important. So we've got a panel of experts. They're going to offer some best practices advice related to both the contract, but also how to deal with these products. And that includes obviously non-alcohol products, but also spirits and wine, which are part of the expanding kind of interest in the independent beer and beverage distributor. You know, you hate it, you hate to say it when you're right, but we started talking about the whole notion of the expansion of the industry long before the COVID shutdowns of 3 years ago. And indeed, that's manifesting itself. People want on the independent beer and beverage distributor's truck, and we want to help them with that.
And just, you know, and in most states, wine and spirits don't have franchise protections like beer have, or even cider for that matter. And so you know, we think these products are all kind of the same, but they're not. And
very, very important. And that's important when you get that contract. You know, the distributor that's maybe been you know, they've been doing 95% of their book is beer. They say, that's fine. I've got the best franchise law in the country, or I'm in XYZ state. And, you know, I don't need to worry about the contract because state law supersedes and that's not true when it comes to a lot of these products. So,
well, look, I'm at Expo West. That's the booth from, that's Riot Energy Drink.
Yeah. Big news this morning as
Sierra Nevada.
a Sierra Nevada product. Yes.
Yeah. So
and
there you go.
Know, exactly right. And you don't have to look too far either in the beer industry or in other beverage industries to see that many of these suppliers, when they, you know, doesn't matter what's been invested by the distributor, it doesn't matter in some of these situations whether the distributor is kicking butt and meeting all their KPIs and giving them and growing them distribution. They can move that product without cause. And that's front and center for a lot of us, whether we're talking about beer or we're talking about other products. We're also excited that evening to have our Toast to Washington reception, which will be once again at Charlie Palmer's, co-hosted with the Beer Institute. And we're really excited. Beer Institute will be joining us as a sponsor of the Ledge Conference. Hosting this event. The Brewers Association will also be back, and they will be participating as a sponsor. Both of their representatives will be part of the industry session, which will be in the late morning of the 25th.
Okay, and just, I'm sorry to break in there, but that's new, right? I mean, I know it used to be that way, and then it didn't for a while.
No, this is still the NBWA Legislative Conference, but what we've got is, and this has started probably 8 years ago, where both BA and BI were sponsors of events around the conference.
Okay.
And obviously we were disrupted by COVID, not having a fly-in 20 or 21. And then coming back last year, we were one of the first groups to go back to the Capitol and back to ordinary, although it wasn't completely ordinary. But we're really excited about this year because the Capitol complex is back open like the old days. It's terrific. I was up there starting in January as we were welcoming over 70 new members of the House and Senate. And it was just terrific to be able to see all of those folks in their offices and have, you know, a more free reign around the Capitol complex. So back to normal, which is good. Also on the evening of the 24th, we have a Next Generation Emerging Leaders group reception. As you guys know, that's been one of the best things that NBWA has done over the last 11 years. We have recognized and watched just a whole new crop of leaders develop before our eyes. And that's a group that, you know, it's part social, it's part best practices. And we're thrilled that Texas Capital Bank is going to be helping out as a sponsor of that event on Monday night, late night, the 24th.
Oh, our friend Bill Pyle.
Bill Pyle, one of the greatest Americans in the beer industry, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Then on Tuesday morning, we'll start off bright and early at 8 o'clock with our distributor member meeting. This is the meeting where unfortunately we don't invite you guys in, but this is an opportunity for us to talk off the record about what's going on, both as it relates to federal policy, what's going on in the state legislatures, what's going on with big retail, which is obviously making some news lately. Also be able to talk about what's going on in the supplier tier, but it's just a great opportunity for us to kind of clear the decks. And we do this twice a year with the doors shut to hear what's on our membership's mind.
We'll be there. Don't worry. We'll be.
Yeah, nefarious ways. That's for sure. That's for sure. And then at about 10 o'clock, we'll have a general industry session, and that will be kind of the public program. We're going to recognize some industry leaders. We're also going to have some content conversation with the Beer Institute, the Brewers Association, and America's Beverage Licensees, which increasingly that retail organization is very important as we watch some of the more bigger ambitions of some of the large retailers, which obviously made the news last week with that piece in Vice News.
Okay, so you go ahead, Jordan.
I wanted to talk to you about that, Craig, because, with the emergence of Blue Cloud and all these kind of controversial, concerning non-out crossovers, I feel like the threat of Amazon hasn't been as front and center as it once was. And then you have that article come out last week, and it's kind of a reminder that, hey, you got to keep an eye on these guys all the time. I'm sure you read the report. Was there anything that stood out to you in particular?
It's interesting. First and foremost, it really did put into writing a number of things that we've been preparing for. When Amazon expanded its reach into the alcohol beverage business with the acquisition of Austin-based Whole Foods in 2017, purchasing 400 beer and wine locations nationally, we really expected that maybe more as it relates to that. And interestingly, we haven't seen as much expansive activity as maybe some prepared for. We've been very involved in setting strategy with our state association exec partners, working, when you think about, especially the last 3 years during and post-COVID, a number of states moved within the 3-tier system to meet some of the convenience needs of the consumer. The expansion in grocery home delivery, the expansion in e-commerce was massive. But in most cases, that was all done under the umbrella of keeping everybody's, it was done in a less disruptive way. Lots of states require licensing of third-party delivery entities. There's a whole host of ways that people have been able to meet the needs of the customer while protecting the integrity of the 3-tier system. And interestingly, that's part of what's so bizarre as we watch the Distilled Spirits Council of the United States, and unfortunately, some at the Brewers Association, seeking more direct-to-consumer privileges. So you've got this expansion in e-commerce over here and this push for DTC, both of which are, I think, not necessary. First of all, small producers, most places have a DTC route to market. It's called their tasting room. Most of those outlets are allowed to sell product to take away. So it's really hard to bite off on that. But when it comes to the ambition of folks like Amazon, this memo really put in print what a lot of us have been being prepared for. So really was surprised that it was there. It's also important to keep in context that the date stamp we think on this was 3 years ago. Right. And I think a lot of the moves that NBWA has made and a lot of the good work that the state associations has done has limited their ability to move on some of those.
Right. I think my reading of that whole Amazon thing was yeah, they looked at it. They looked at every way that I would have if I were looking to direct ship, and they kind of just said, "This looks like a lot of." There's a lot more easier low hanging fruit to go grab than alcohol at this point. So I mean,
Well,
it's still a threat, but
and let's not forget it is those retailers that, those brick and mortar retailers are on the front lines of delivering alcohol to thirsty consumers. And, I think that, they had things like license limitations that were listed on there. Some really kind of insider, long-standing in some cases, and politically debatable. I mean, states like Massachusetts, Maryland have license limitations. They've been challenged legally. They stand. In Massachusetts, they've been challenged at the ballot box. They've been debated in this legislature. So a number of these issues that they kind of high spotted have been subject to challenge by a whole host of other economic interests. So, but make no mistake about it. This is a reminder. It's a wake up call to anybody that was like, hey, you guys are just making up stuff. This is never going to happen. It appears that it was something that somebody from Amazon was contemplating.
right, for sure. It's, big companies got to look at every option, and it's like, good Lord, do we really want to get tangled up in 10 years of litigation? And I mean, why?
Well, it's interesting because Amazon is so many things. It is so big, it just boggles the mind. I mean, they're a retailer, and as a retailer, in most cases, if they're compliant with the state's laws and they're sourcing their product from the 3-tier sources, that's fine. That's great. They're another choice for the consumer, whether it's home delivery, whether it's their grab and go concepts that are getting some ink this week. All of those kinds of things are interesting. But as it relates to Amazon as a marketplace, or as it relates to Amazon as a logistics provider, or as it relates to Amazon as a transportation company, I mean, they're got one of the biggest airplane fleets in the world. I mean, they're taking off and landing thousands of times a day, taking their products back and forth. Now they're an entertainment provider with streaming content. They're a movie studio, and now they're a sports broadcaster. And it's interesting to see some of this ambition, manifest itself as they're like, oh, well, we're a broadcast network. We want to take supplier dollars, or we want to take wholesaler dollars. Well, but you're also a retailer, and you have a license in some of these marketplaces, and that's going to be a pack a big lunch issue for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of, when you think of that, and then you look at like the stuff I was dealing with when I first got in the industry in the 90s. Oh my God, Pizza Hut's selling beer, and Pizza Hut's owned by Pepsi. And oh my God, and Pepsi has a stake in Absolute. That was chicken feed to what we're dealing with today. We thought it was such a big deal, but
well, and it's interesting. I mean, Jordan, you brought up the whole notion of Pepsi and the alcohol, and it's not that Pepsi's making alcohol. It's Pepsi's in the alcohol distribution business. They're trying to have their cake and eat it too. And most states don't allow large manufacturers to be distributors. That's a fact. We know that. Just since 2010, over 10 states have moved to restrict large brewers from owning distribution. So the whole notion that they can sub out their intellectual property and let somebody else make their product, and then even with all of the millions and millions of dollars that are paid to retail in the form of slotting fees, slide in and somehow be a distributor. I think that's another one of those issues it's wait a minute, not so fast. And I think that's what a number of states have said, either from a regulatory standpoint or certainly from a legislative standpoint. So it's really interesting. And that's before you even get to the big news as it relates to some of these products that are being rolled out. Previously with a higher profile for the underage consumer.
I mean, Jordan, you remember we've been saying on this podcast, and I think in the newsletter, for about a year, It's going to end up on the local news, and then it's going to get picked up by Good Morning America, and that's exactly what happened.
Yep.
And we'll have a link in tomorrow's newsletter, but Good Morning America picked up a local Phoenix station about Sunny D. And is this right for kids? And oh my gosh! And they brought up Mountain Dew, and then of course they showed the infamous Hot Wheels display, and
Yeah.
and I mean, once it gets on Good Morning America, and all the mothers of America are on high alert, things happen, and so we'll see if it spreads. I mean, this is inevitable. I don't know why. I don't know if anybody's surprised, but they shouldn't be, right, Craig?
Yeah, no, they shouldn't be. And we've been talking about this for over a year now. And I think it's one of those things where I think people really need to stop and think, are we putting the system at risk with, whether it's product proliferation or with the way that we're choosing to go to market. And interestingly, Sunny D is really interesting because, it is, just the marketing from the 90s was so children centric. And, this may have been the straw that broke the camel's back as it relates to the media and folks paying attention to this. But we've been very concerned about Hard Mountain Dew and its profile and the way that it has gone to market, for the last 30 years, outdoor sports, extreme sports, and a lot's been written about this and whether this is a good choice. And I do think this is a circumstance where everybody has got to be very careful when it comes to marketing, when it comes to merchandising, when it comes to, heaven forbid, cross promoting. But I also think there's a difference between Sunny D and Hard Mountain Dew, and and not everybody agrees with this, but things for products like Jack Daniels and Coke. Jack Daniels is a globally recognized spirits brand. People know right off the bat, Jack Daniels is liquor. Interestingly, even Topo Chico and Simply, I don't think they had any kind of an identification as it relates to the marketplace. Neither one of those brands were big advertisers. Harry, you're the one that turned me on to Topo Chico 4 or 5 years ago because all the Texans were drinking it with tequila.
Yeah.
And now that's become a staple, and Topo Chico is an established seltzer brand, and the spirits extension will be out there too. So there's a distinction in the way that these products go to market, and there's certainly a distinction as it relates to, I think, responsibility in the marketplace. But make no mistake about it, distributors have got to be on point, and we've got to be working with the retailers to make sure that these products don't get promoted and don't get merchandised next to their non-alcohol partners or adjacencies.
Yeah, I was going to ask, Craig, because as we talked about earlier, everybody wants to be on a beer distributor's truck. And unfortunately, with some of these products, they're going to go knocking on beer distributors' doors. And so do you have any advice for, your members on where to draw the line on some of these products?
Well, and this is evolving quickly. And so I think part of this has got to be everybody, like I said, being on point, being aware. And if you see a retail partner that is doing something that you think puts the system at risk, you got to call them out on it. You got to bring it to their attention. Early on in some of the Mountain Dew rollout, we saw that they were very deliberately putting that next to the paid for shelf space in grocery stores and convenience across the nation. Maybe they've stopped doing that. I don't know, but this criticism is real. And the Royal Collective, I don't like to say royal, but you know what I mean? We have got to be very, very careful as it relates to all of this. And, yes, you drop the beer off, you merchandise, you do whatever you're supposed to do in that retail outlet, and that becomes that retailer's property. But responsibility shouldn't take a break. We need to be on point full time.
It's curious. I keep wondering why you keep calling it Topo Chico. Don't you know that above the Red River, it's called Topo Chico?
Topo Chico, Topo Chico, it's Chico and the man, whatever you want it to be.
It's funny just to hear everybody call it Topo Chico, and that's
Yeah,
not
well,
what it's called, but it's a Southern thing. Well, what are there any other policy things? You know, what are we looking at with the election? Like, is there any changes that would affect beer wholesalers insofar as who wins the presidential election next year?
oh my God, that is, in some ways that is tomorrow, and in some ways that is years from now, and it is years from now, fortunately. But we're focused first and foremost on these 75 new members of the House and Senate, and making sure that folks come to Washington to introduce themselves to those folks, because we've got a bunch of new leaders, particularly in the House. With the change of control to the Republicans, we've got new chairs of the Judiciary Committee. We've got new chairs of the Oversight and Investigation Committee, and new members likewise. So that's never been more important. And politically, we've got a big diversity among those members. And that's been part of, I think, how we've been successful, is we can have relationships with people that are not 100% on all of our primary issues, but there's somebody that we've got to work with because of this or that. And I'm talking about left and right. And so that's why I'm making the case to be there. But, one of the things that's front and center is that in 2025, the 2017 tax cuts, which effectively was a rate reduction for every beer distributor in America, most of which those businesses are pass-throughs, but even those that are organized as a corporation all saw a significant rate reduction. Unfortunately, for the Wall Street companies, those corporations, their cut was made permanent, and their rate was driven down to a very low, I think, by anybody's measure, 21%. Pass-throughs and the individual rate got some additional treatment that resulted in a lower effective rate, but those rates, if left unchecked, go right back up in 2025. So we're going to be conditioning the ground and talking to a number of folks in both parties about the importance of maintaining this existing tax rate. And that goes to everything from your effective rate to Section 199 and depreciation and expensibility, but also for estate taxes. So all of these issues are on the table when it comes to taxes. Another thing that we're going to be talking about, Harry, is, unfortunately, the liquor segment of the industry, and specifically the Distilled Spirits Council, is continuing to go on offense when it comes to excise taxes. We've seen a wide number of states where they have attempted to get lower tax rates on canned cocktails, or as somebody I was talking to over the weekend said, it's liquor in a can, whatever you want to call it.
I think I know who you were talking to.
Well, regardless whether you're calling it liquor in a can or canned cocktails, or ready to drink, which is the more, maybe that's the PC term, but canned cocktails are, we've always, in the United States of America, since colonial times, taxed alcohol on its origin. And that goes for two reasons. One is the concentration of the alcohol itself. The other is the way that it's consumed. And so to open that up, I think, is just a gigantic food fight, and it's a distraction from everything. And remember that this excise tax relief that was first passed as part of that 17 tax package was made permanent in 2020. So I think this is a really important issue for beer distributors to be on point on, regardless of the diversity in their book. Not all of the distillers are in favor of seeking a lower tax rate. So that's something that'll definitely be talked about. Obviously, workforce is another issue that's really, really important. I mean, I've never seen in my nearly 30 years as an industry observer, I have not seen a labor situation like what we're dealing with right now. I mean, we have jobs that are unfilled. We have a workforce that is in transition. We have people that don't want to work, and this gets a little dicey, but we have 11 million people here that are not citizens that are awaiting processing that are unemployable. And so we're going to be talking to policymakers about that as well, because and this is an even bigger problem, because as a nation, we need the wage base of those folks. Whether they're citizens or not, we need them paying into the wage base. We need them paying in to fund eventually, Harry, yours and my Social Security, in an effort to ensure that this marketplace and this economy remains strong. I mean, there are some great fundamentals out there in spite of the cost of money and in spite of the employee shortage that are great. Just another one of those issues that we're going to be talking about.
Right. Cool. Well, Jordan, if you want to go hop on one of Glazier's trucks, or maybe go see if you can get in their warehouse, they probably pay you more right now than I'm paying you.
It's crossed my mind a time or two.
I'll let you know. I get texts every day that I could be a CDL driver and earn six figures.
Oh yeah, you're still getting those?
Yeah, from CR Hunt.
That's good. I think maybe you should give that a shot. Yeah.
Maybe. Listen, I always have a backup.
Yeah.
But no, I was the only one at Houston Distributing that failed my CDL license twice. I couldn't parallel truck a 16 bay. Who can? They're not supposed to be parallel parked. God's sake.
Hey, you're a man of letters, Harry. You're an author. You're distinguished. You're the most interesting man. Come on.
I hope so.
That's for sure.
Well, good. Well, thanks for being on, Craig, as usual. We've run you out. We've run you long. But we look forward to seeing you. And so you've switched the schedule around. So
it's
check
just
the
moved
website.
Today. It's just moved today. So think of Monday as the new Sunday. So everybody arrives on Monday, and we'll have the welcome reception will be at Charlie Palmer with the Beer Institute, and then we'll be and then the session will be on Tuesday morning, and we'll start our visits on Tuesday afternoon, and then on Tuesday night we'll have our annual beer and food function with members and staff from Capitol Hill called Cheers. And lots of times, we're conscious of the fact that people can't come to a 3-night meeting. And so we feel like we've been able to kind of practice what we preach. I mean, the one thing we've learned over the last 3 years is people's time is really valuable. So if we can take the content and compress it and make it work better, we're going to try to do that. And so folks will be able to stay for the Cheers event on Tuesday night. And then on Wednesday morning, actually, we'll do more visits on Wednesday morning. Then at noon, we will have our Brew Leadership Forum, which is building relationships and empowering women. We know that yesterday was International Women's Day. And this Brew program, Harry, I know that Jen has been a part of it. She's been a key leader. She's part of the steering committee. But what that group has done is transformative. It has been fantastic to have this, what I think is just a truly organic, there's so much enthusiasm and so much natural coalescing of these leaders coming together. It's fantastic. When it comes to this group, I've done my level best to just stay out of the way. Kim McKinnish, who is our COO, honchos this group for NBWA. And what they've been able to do as it relates to content, programming, networking, bringing people together has just been terrific. And I think if we're going to continue to evolve as an industry, and we're going to continue to prioritize having organizations that look like our marketplace, it starts with empowering women and ensuring that they're part of this industry in a meaningful and leading way. So and that'll finish up on Wednesday, but we're real excited about that. We've got a great number of folks that have already signed up to kind of build out what we think is going to be a fantastic week in Washington.
Great. Awesome. I know Jen really values that and enjoys working with Kim on that committee. Well, good. Well, thanks, Craig, for being on. Jordan, guard the printer and feed the parakeet, check on my dog, and I'll be back tomorrow. All right, guys.
So it's Natural Foods Conference, huh?
Yeah, Expo West. There was a lot of news generated out of it last year. I'm thinking now this year that nobody wants any new products on the shelf, so it's slim pickings at least in beverage alcohol. There's a lot of natural foods, but there's just a few products that I wanted to see. And
well, I
Oh,
think what you do, I think you go into the general session and you do it kind of like you do at our meetings, and you put a ball cap on and you hide in the corner. And I'll give you $100 if you put it on your video, and if you pull out a Twinkie and you eat it at the Natural Foods Conference.
you know what? That's not a bad bit. I like that.
I think you should
Craig.
do it.
You should be a
Yeah.
producer on this
You're
podcast.
still doing that. You're still doing that typos for Tata's deal, right? I'll do that.
Yeah, but that outlasted its it died in the Me Too era.
Okay, well, hey, I wasn't focusing on that. I was focusing on the cause and giving you a Twinkie.
No,
Yeah.
we
We still do the typos, but
yeah, we still we just don't give to Tata.
There's no charity. Yeah.
No, we switched over to St. Joseph's Children's Hospital. Nobody can deny the
Eat
children.
a Twinkie for St. Joseph, the patron saint of Twinkies. Yeah.
That's all right. Good. All right, guys. Well, listen,
All right.
have a good weekend, and we'll talk
Thanks,
to you
man.
later.
Cheers.
Thanks, Greg.
All right.